This program is made possible in part by Nebraskans for Public Television. Consider this, a news and information program recorded on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. From the Fireside Lounge in the Milo Bales Student Center, here is your host, Carol Schrader.
Hello and welcome back to UNO. My guest this week has now, as of this moment, scored the most appearances on this show, and with good reason. I'd like to reintroduce to you Chuck Stigerson, who the first two times appeared with his Democratic counterpart. He was the head of the Republican Party. Then he was elected to the City Council last spring. We had him on right away, get his first impressions, and now he's president, and we're having him back, president of the City Council.
It's nice to be back, and I do miss the Ann Boyle show, you know, when we did it together. That was a lot of fun.
That was fun, and I haven't seen the same kind of appearance schedule by the heads, the two respective heads of the parties, but that will be coming. The mayor's out of town at the National Mayor's Conference. No significance that you're, acting mayor, and that I've asked you, and we're going to, change city policy or.
What would you like me to sign?
Don't have anything to sign. That's not my function. But what is my function is to ask you, just this day, as we tape this, the president spoke to the National Conference of Mayors, where Mayor Fahey is right now, and talked about doubling the amount of money to local subdivisions, what he calls the first responders, in terms of the Homeland Security that we are very cognizant of September 11th. Is this something that, there are all kinds of phases of Homeland Security. There's the biological, terroristic warfare that the medical and health community takes care of and worries about. Then there's the city itself, wondering, are we prepared? And is that going to be a top item on, now that we know that maybe we can fix some things up, there might be a few more funds out there?
Well, the mayor and I have had a discussion about this already, and I've been looking at the disaster preparedness book, and I think there are some things we can do better, and I'm going to be getting with the mayor after he gets back. I think that although we have a good plan, I think it can be improved. I'm not sure we're ready for something like anthrax, but I do know that we're ready for most level 1 to level 3 disasters. Maybe a level 4, which would be a ultimate type of disaster, might be a problem, but I think we're partially there, and I think with the renewed emphasis on making sure that even if the worst case scenario happened, we'd be able to function. I think we'll be okay. And
city services, and then tie into that county services, and now metro services, because we're so interconnected in this community. My recollection, though, is that plan was really put together after two items in 1975, a quarter of a century ago, a blizzard and a tornado. And the idea was, can we build a civic center? At that time, we were still trying to decide how we were going to function in our building space. Can we create a space underneath the Civic Center that will act as the communications hub? Because that was the big problem we had 25 years ago.
Sure.
But now we worry about more things than just something hitting somewhere else. We think about business centers, government centers being hit.
Well, the plan has been updated many times since 1975, but still, I don't think anyone ever envisioned what happened in New York and Oklahoma City, and I think that we can always improve the plan. So I know the mayor and I will be looking at it very closely, and with an eye to making sure that even if the worst happened to Omaha, we can survive. And I think city governments can survive.
Okay, so we'll be looking forward to that, but there are plenty of issues on the plate right now.
Sure.
Where to start? Well, coming up very close is having to decide on a pretty controversial housing project in your district in Northwest Omaha.
Right.
And that's the Mercy plan to replace some of the subsidized housing from Eastern Omaha and put an apartment complex for families, much of which would be either housing authority or subsidized housing in your district, in what's known as the Keystone area. Very well-established neighborhood. Obviously, the people in your district are opposed to it.
Sure.
I'm just guessing from my coverage of neighborhood experiences in the past. And so how do you balance trying to spread subsidized housing over the city? Because we've agreed to do that, whether you agree with
Yes.
the concept or not. The city has agreed to do it. How do you balance where to do that?
The city has agreed to do it. They haven't agreed to do it by just forcing developments onto neighborhoods. What they did was say, we will build X number of units throughout the city.
Okay.
Well, a prudent business plan would be to have many sites available and set to go in case one site is found to be unsuitable or the neighbors are truly opposed to it. But what we have here is we have time running out on the court decision, and we have only one plan on the table. And it's almost like the people of Keystone are being said to take this or you're going to be responsible for us not complying with the court order. And my feeling is, and many of the members of the community are feelings, is that they should have had more than one alternative, because now they're putting they're forcing Keystone to put their backs up against the wall. And that's really not fair to the people of Keystone. They have some very legitimate reason for not wanting this development. Number one, it's going to attract a lot of new kids to the area. And right now, the Boyd School up the street is very overcrowded.
We're talking about 88th and Boyd.
Yes,
just
88th
for
and
those
Boyd.
of making reference geographically.
And secondly, if you live in Omaha, northwest Omaha, you know that Boyd Street is a shortcut so people can avoid 90th and Maple Street. So consequently, they shoot down Boyd Street, and I asked a police unit to clock the area and tell me what the average speed limit was on the street. And I can't remember the number, but I know the next week they went back there and they ticketed 145 people in one day for speeding on that road. So that's a pretty highly traveled and highly high-speed road. And
that's already.
That's
is what you're
already
saying.
before they even put in another unit. So the people of Keystone are saying if we put another 80 units in that short, small area, that's going to overload the street even more, and it's going to be very unsafe for the kids to get from that neighborhood to the school.
Now, the city legal department has recently said that they believe it will take 5 votes at the council to ultimately make that project become a reality. It doesn't even look like you can get 4 at this point.
Right.
But I mean that. Whoever knows till the moment. But the issue of moving subsidized housing all over the city has been an issue for at least 20 years. And you've got to wonder, or some people who are interested in this subject, in other words, it is a concern to them that it be spread out, that it not all be in one area, have got to be concerned about the political will. And then on the other side are the people of Keystone who feel they're the scapegoat. Anywhere in the city is going to be an established neighborhood check.
Sure, you're absolutely right. But there are other ways to do it. For instance, Mercy Housing bought an entire apartment complex at 142nd and Harrison Street. They bought it already built. See, it wasn't the zoning that was at risk in the Boyd Street area. What it was that someone else had zoned that for another use, and Mercy Housing came in and bought it, not knowing that had been zoned for something else.
One of the first rules of real estate purchases.
That's right.
Check your zoning
They
and
should
what are
have.
the chances of being
And
able to change
there's
it.
a PUD, a planned unit development on the site, and that was supposed to be for a senior assisted living care center. And the people of Keystone said, hey, that's a good use because, number one, there won't be a lot of cars and there won't be a lot of kids. And this is a highly dangerous street, so this is good. We'll go along and give you our blessing for the zoning change. Well, the company that got the zoning change decided not to build that unit. So they walked away and they sold the land. Well, Mercy Housing bought the land, but I don't think they ever saw the PUD, or no one pointed it out to them. So all of a sudden they had to come back and get a zoning change or get a plan change, and that causes now 5 votes. And that's why the problem is for Mercy. Instead of 4, which they might be able to get, they need 5, and I don't think they can get 5.
Because they're changing this PUD.
That's right.
What, being the long-term thinker that you are, and the leader that you have proven to be, is there a leadership role that you as the president should take on solving this problem for the future? I mean, this is not something that the city can get out from under in terms of its responsibility to spread this out, and maybe in some people's thinking it isn't something they should get out from under. So given that,
well, I've met with the Mercy people, and I've told them they went about this the wrong way. They came in and said, this is what we're going to do, and you can take it or leave it, but we're going to do it. They should have come into the neighborhood and said, this is what we propose. Can we work with you? Can you work with us? Can we come up with something that you can live with and we can live with too? There wasn't no alternative. They just came in and say, hey, we have a court order. We're going to do whatever we want to do, and you can take it or leave it.
I'm not into the blame game myself, and I know you aren't, at least publicly, because you're a good politician. But I can't believe that with all the experiences over the years we've had of public hearings and meetings, that this can be, even though maybe they should have checked the zoning attachments, that this can be laid totally at the doorstep of Mercy.
I'm not doing that.
And I didn't think you were. Yeah, that's why I'm
just saying that when you have something like this, which is
the Omaha Housing Authority and people of goodwill that really believe in this concept of spreading it out. I mean, where's all the experience and wisdom over the problems of the ages, so to speak, in this?
Well, I think that the problem was put on Mercy's shoulders. Here it is. Go do it.
You have the contract. It's your problem.
That's right. Your problem. And I think they did a nice job, for instance, at 35th and Francis. I voted for that project. But in that project, they came in and they wanted to build 28 units at 35th and Francis. The neighborhood objected, saying that's too much for too little area. They wind up compromising with the people in the area at 14 units. And we approved that on the city council, now building 14 units. That showed they could work with the neighborhoods and the neighborhood association. They didn't do that with Keystone. They just came in, and I was there at the first meeting at the Boyd School. There were over 350 people there. Every single room and the seat in the room was taken. They had 50 seats on the stage because that was more room for people to sit. And they came in and they said, these are our drawings, this is what we're going to put in, and thank you very much. And that was it. No compromise, no, let's work this out, let's talk about this, maybe we can do it with 60, maybe we can do it with less. It was this or nothing. And I had them into my office and we met and I said, you need to mend some fences with the people in Keystone. Find a way to win the people over to you. And you do that by talking and trying to find a good compromise. I didn't see a lot of effort on the part of Mercy. They went to the planning board. The planning board unanimously 7-0 said, no, we're not going to approve your design. And so now they're the council, they're going to go around the planning board and they're running into, I believe, a buzzsaw on the city council.
So the future, though, of the need to meet this agreement with the feds, what is that? I mean, do you think this can be worked out in a reasonable amount of time?
It's been worked out in other places. They have units at 35th and Francis. They have units at 72nd and Harrison Street. They have units on 142nd and Harrison Street. They can work it out if they just go and do it the right way. I think they did it the wrong way here.
I got a kick out of an introduction in the legislature this week. I think the bill was something to the effect of there's 5 out of 6 contiguous states that allow gambling. So a bill was introduced that said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that any one of those contiguous areas in Nebraska, we're contiguous to Iowa where they gamble, you have a 2-mile strip along that border that you could have gambling, casino-style gambling. And it actually involves a large part of it, the Indians being allowed, the Native Americans being allowed because there are 3 or 4 tribes in the state. Sure. Did you know that was going to come up, and what's your reaction to it?
I didn't have a clue. The one state, by the way, is Wyoming. They don't have gambling, so there would be no strip, but the strip would be Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, South Dakota. And so, in Iowa, of course. And I find that very fascinating. I was intrigued to see what Pat Lunger had to say, because Pat has led the effort against gambling for all these years. And her comment really surprised me. She said, that's an interesting concept. Well, I would have expected her to be adamantly against it right away.
She might have been in shock.
Maybe so.
Well, but it is an interesting concept. When you think about it, now there are those that will say, and I'm sure Pat will in the long term, although I won't speak for her, is that, we have enough gambling and we've got this border, and right now we don't allow gambling, that kind of gambling in the state, and that's the way we're going to stay, and we're going to, die fighting for that. But on the other hand, there's those that are looking at Council Bluffs and know that they're going to pull a certain amount of people from a certain radius, no matter what. So why not keep some of that money here? Because the radius won't really change if you only have 2 little more miles. It's just interesting.
What backyard do you want to put your casino in?
I mean, it's basically the backyard. The state just happens to have a different name. More, give or take.
I'll be curious to see if that even makes it out of committee, because the bill has just been introduced. I don't think is
No, there are many
slated for
hearings,
committee yet.
or it hasn't even gone anywhere. But it's interesting in light of the fact that there's talk about possibly as many as 3 petition drives to get some form of casino or slot machine or gambling from different
Sure.
interests on. Maybe this is an offensive move just to kind of.
It's going to be fun to watch. Of course, my position has always been I'm not a fan of gambling, but I'm not zealous either. I don't.
You mean there's something you're not a zealot about?
Well, I don't go to the casinos, but only because I have no reason to go. I'm not opposed to someone else going. That's
Just doesn't trip your trigger.
just doesn't trip my trigger. I can go to Vegas and spend a week there and spend $10 in quarters. That's it.
That's a conservative Republican for you.
That's it. But on the other hand, I think that maybe it's time to listen to the people. If the people really want this, then maybe I'd like to see them take a vote on it. And I
Or
have
at
no
least
problem with
discuss
that.
it?
Yeah, at least discuss it. I can live with that. I told some of the companies that are doing the petition, I said, I'm going to be opposed to it. But, if you run the petition, I think a vote is a good thing, because if the people genuinely want it, then who are we to say no? This is still a representative democracy, and if the people want it, let's have it. But on the other hand, I need to be convinced the people really want it.
Well, it'll be fun to watch.
It will be, and I think it's good to have the discussion. I'm not sure what the details are in that bill, and I think we have a long way to go, because I thought I saw something about the Indian tribes will be able to have 3 or 4 of the 6 casinos allowed. I'm not sure how that works.
That's one for each tribe, perhaps.
I think so, yeah.
I know there's 3 tribes in Nebraska for sure. The other thing that's kind of interesting is, speaking of high-stakes gambling, is that all the press that the Arena Convention Center is getting, and all the related riverfront and the bonds that are going out, and will that affect our tax rate? But let's just focus on the Arena Convention Center and how you get council briefings all the time. How you think that is progressing? Are you at all concerned? Is the new design, does that trip your trigger? Or as some say, this shiny stuff in 10 years is going to be out. But I mean, what are some of the issues that to you in the Arena Convention Center are the things your laser attention is going to be focused on?
Well, I'm still looking to make sure we have the right mix as far as the Convention Visitors Bureau, and we're actually pursuing people coming to Omaha. I was a little bit concerned until I saw the newspaper yesterday, and I saw all the convention centers around the country and how they're doing. And we have 2 conventions booked, but there are some convention centers that are opening next year with 1 or 3 or 4. And the way I feel, we're still a year and a half, 2 years away. Just to have 2 is disconcerting, but not dangerous.
It's all relative.
That's right. It really is.
But it may still be a low number because you're spreading conventions out over many new convention centers, in addition to all the ones that exist already. And we just don't know. And I'm not one to say at this point, we shouldn't have done that. But there has to be concern that we stay on top of this, I would guess, on all fronts.
Well, you have to bet on the future. If you're going to bet the future is going to be dismal.
See, you are a betting person.
If you bet the future is going to be bad, you're a pessimist. And you can't rule the city. You can't have the city's future defined by pessimism. You have to have the city's future designed by optimism. And I'm an optimist. I believe the economy is going to turn around. I believe that people are going to want to come to Omaha as travelers, as visitors, as a tourist destination. And the best way to get to know Omaha is the convention center, because this is how the people first get to see Omaha. And if they first get to see us and they like us, they'll come back.
But your tenure on this council is going to be seeing this become a reality. And so there are going to be issues that you're going to be because you are a good legislator and keep track of things pretty well. That's of your nature. What are the watersheds along the way that you're going to be paying attention to, or what are the things right now that you're staying on top. You insist
Well, right
upon
now,
being
I'm
staying on
watching
top
very
of-
carefully that we're not having cost overruns. The MECA board has to give us quarterly reports on the convention center progress, and I just got done reading that report yesterday from cover to cover, and there was not a single cost overrun. That's a good sign because we want to come in at least at budget or maybe under budget. We don't want to come in over budget because that could be a problem down the road. So consequently, cost overruns right off the bat. The other thing is to make sure that the bonds are passed and sold at a good interest rate. And I think we're in a good place right now to have those bonds sold at a good interest rate. The interest rates are down, and that's good for us in the long run. So I think that's going to help too. If the interest rate starts to rise, we need to get those bonds sold and out the door before that happens.
There's you hear rumors, and there's not even anything to these rumors. It's just buzz based on past projects and whatnot, that the real landmines in this project might be the infrastructure and the cost of all the related costs, that where we could run into things. Do you feel that this whole picture is, there are no landmines in that either?
I've been led to believe by planning and by the finance department, the legal department, that everything is on track and just rolling down the road very nicely. Now, there may be a bump on the road, but I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, and there could be small ones.
Yeah.
That's the nature
And I
of the
think the
beast.
hotel was really one of the real sticking points, and now that's done. We have a design. Some people love it, some people hate it, but the bottom line is we have a design. I like it better than the one we had before. Not that I didn't like the one before, but I thought it was in the wrong place. It should have been south of the interstate in the old market area. There would look great.
You think that they are more complimentary now?
Yeah, they are. Definitely they are. And certainly I still would have liked to have the bigger building. The convention center is going to be 150 feet at the top, and the Hilton Hotel is going to be about 85 or 90 feet at the top. So we're going to have a convention center with towers over the hotel. But on the other hand, still, we have the 450 rooms. We have a modern design. It's going to look nice. It's going to be complementary to the convention center. I think it's going to work. We can't have everything we want, so we take what we can get, and I think we've got as much as we're going to get it right now.
Do you think that big old box we know now as the Civic Auditorium is going to still be a usable commodity?
I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of time. I think the clock's ticking. I think that if we get the Maverick hockey, we get Creighton playing at the arena, and we do a few other things, I think the Civic Center, it's going to be too expensive to maintain. That Civic Center is now more than 50 years old. At least it's 50 years old. That's a long time. And I'd like to think that the one we're building will be good 50 years from now. But the fact of the matter is, your first 25 years, you're best. After that, you start having a lot of maintenance problems.
Right.
And that's what we have right now, even with that
Well,
even
don't even
with that
talk about
renovation.
parking
Yeah,
down there.
that's
I mean,
right,
so
too.
the parking situation certainly will be different down there. And that's prime, if everything goes according to plan, that's prime real estate
I think so
down
too.
there too. So
And it could be, we have the music hall there. If we lose the music hall, we have a major minor problem where we have some venues that we now have in the music hall. And I believe that land will be probably assimilated by business, maybe another hotel, or maybe Creighton University will use it. But I can't believe we can afford to maintain that one after the convention arena is finished.
speaking of performance venues, the Performing Arts complex that they want to build down the old Swanson, and the issue over some of the older buildings there, and whether we even need as much room as that entire block. How do you think that's going to shake out?
I think the Performing Arts Center is going to be approved. I think it's going to be approved pretty well. I met with
The way it is, the plan it is?
The way it is. I met with the building owners yesterday morning. We spent about an hour and a half. I toured all the buildings. I talked to every owner. And I think they're pretty much resigned to the fact that they're going to sell the buildings. The key is how long they're going to live there before the buildings are sold. They just want to guarantee that if they sell the buildings, there is something going to be in there. They're not going to sell the buildings to the Performing Arts Center, and then the Performing Arts Center will say, never mind, and sell the land to someone else. They want to be sure that if we've really taken the buildings, we have a real reason for it. And I agree with that.
The issue of our financial situation, I want to spend just a few minutes left in the show, and it's probably, we could have started with this at the top, but since it's unfolding, we do have a situation where we are very tight right now, extremely tight. And the mayor is warning that if some certain things happen with what's going on in downtown, and that we might have to raise, and Riverfront, we might have to raise taxes.
Well, you're comparing apples to oranges here, because the bonds we're doing downtown, as was explained to us, we have a cushion in there, and I believe we can go 3 years or 4 years before we even have to discuss raising taxes, and that would be if certain things didn't happen, like we don't get the conventions and the hotels not booked and so forth. So I think one hand we have the bonds.
Okay, that's a little longer
that's
term
down the
issue.
road. I think the mayor was bracing us for that in case it happened. Then we have the actual general obligation of the city, the general budget, and that may be a little bit tighter. Now, one of the reasons it's tight is because we had 7 years of continuing expansion of government. And even though we had increasing revenues and a chance to decrease the taxes, instead what we did was he just took all the increasing revenue with minor changes and spent it.
Well, wait a minute. We had a Republican at the helm 6 of those 7 years.
Now you want to throw partisanship in there.
No, but
you had a
no. All right,
Democrat city council.
Right, that's true. But
Which
let us,
didn't get along.
But this is a temptation.
Yes.
When we had the expansion in the city, property values going up,
Sure.
annexing, pretty well paid off chunks of land.
It's human nature. You like to help people. I can see
And we
it.
had a lot of plans in the city
And I
to
can
do
see
a lot
it in
of
city
things.
council. People come in all the time and saying, Chuck, we need this.
Okay, so what's going to happen now? What do you see as vulnerable because if we have to tighten up?
I don't know if it's vulnerable. I just think that what we have, we're going to be able to keep. We're just not going to be able to expand it. Public safety is paramount, and we have
And
to
you've got
make
the
sure.
fire department contract coming up.
Excuse me, and the police. We have to take care of them. Humane Society, things like that. Things dealing with public safety, we have to take care of. The people are not going to sit still for the libraries being closed too long. They're not going to sit still with the parks not being taken care of. So consequently, I think we can take care of what we have. But can we expand? I don't think so. I think we have another year or two of just holding and treading water. And I think the people want that. They're saying, hey, we like what we get, but don't charge it anymore. Well,
But other than cutting back on the library hours and some of the things that we're already aware of pretty much that are happening or in the works, do you think there's any surprises?
I don't think so. And keep in mind that when people get their tax bill, only a very small part of it, 25%, is coming from the city. Those big increases didn't come from the city. We kept our increase last year almost zero, and when it finally happened, it was 0.3%. That's very little. On a $100,000 house, your tax went up $5, compliments to the city. If you look at that $200 tax bill that went up the last time, most of that came from other places, like the school board, Metro Tech, Metro Area Transit, County Board.
Always careful to point that out.
Always.
And as we close the show, I want to point out Chuck Sigerson was a city council member who told the county assessor, "You mistakenly dropped the value of my property, so get it back up there."
I can't wait to see what she's going to charge me too.
Oh boy. Thank you so much, Chuck, for joining us. Chuck Sigerson, President of the Omaha City Council. A reminder, you can check us out on the web and see this show and other past shows at UNOTV at unomaha.edu. Thanks for joining us this week on Consider This. The man who brought you, I'm an honest citizen.
I got the Taxpayer of the Year award from Roger Moore.
This program is made possible in part by Nebraskans for Public Television.